I know in my last video I talked about getting out of your own way, and how to tell if you are in your own way in terms of doing magic and getting the results. This video, I'm going to talk about a few free things you can do to help yourself get out of your own way, because I know a lot of people watching these videos are not ready to go find a coach, find a service provider, find somebody who helps specifically with the getting out of your own way part and invest the time and the money in that. So I want to give you some things that anybody can do regardless of how much money you have, how much time you have. Although, to be honest, no matter what, you're going to have to at least spend a little bit of time on these things. But you are spending time watching this video, so you've already spent a minute listening to me. So you are putting in the time. These things don't take a lot of time. The first one is to focus on who you're being. So a lot of times our identity is tied to what other people say that we are. So I'm going to go into my own personal experience. For a long time, I did not think of myself as a person who was good at networking because I was around people who told me that I wasn't good at it. And so then I believed that, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I didn't become better at it because I stopped doing it because people told me I wasn't good at it. But what changed for me is I stopped listening to all of those people. I got outside of those circles. I started networking in completely different circles. I started saying that I was good at networking to myself every single day. I started taking actions that were aligned with that. So reaching out to people, going to networking events, following up with people, doing collaborations, listing a bunch of other networking events in my group on networking. So it went from being something like, of course I could always improve, but I got to a point where I stopped thinking that I was bad at it and started thinking, okay, I'm good at this. So it became an identity, because the important thing is the changing the identity piece. And this goes to sometimes getting outside of your circles and being around people who never even knew the old you, because now you're around them, so they just know the new you. They don't know past you, they just know present you. And this is very common in people who've been in that addiction cycle, like with drugs or with anything. And then they stop hanging with those same people who did those things, and they join totally new circles who never knew the old them. So they're not being reinforced as like, there's nobody who says this is who you are, because they didn't even know past you. They just know present you. They just know the person that's in front of them, not like somebody from 10, 20, 30 years ago, or even just a year ago. They don't know that person. They just know you. So you're reinforcing your new identity with new people. So yeah, that does take some time and intention for sure, but it's not, this big outlay of cash on somebody else. It's just getting outside of your normal circles, which is something I advocate for anyway. The second thing in terms of getting out of your own way is getting outside in nature and away from everybody else. Like, I want to say as far away from everybody else as you possibly can. Depending on where you live and your situation, that might be easy, like super easy, just like walk outside, or it might be super hard. You might have to do a long walk somewhere or something. But you want to be by yourself and like not surrounded by other people. And this is really important because it's being outside of other people's energy and like telling yourself to stop thinking about what they're thinking. Because sometimes, even when we're by ourselves, other people are still stuck in our head. And when you're by yourself, you can just be like whoever you want to be because there's nobody else there to try to reinforce anything else. So it's not just physically getting in that situation where you're outside of other people's like vibes or auras or whatever, but it's also mentally getting there and just, you know, detaching from all of that. But you're not just there to like meditate and forest bathe or ocean bathe or whatever you're doing. You're there to reinforce your new identity of who you want to become. So the location is just to get that old stuff out of you. You need to be very deliberate about the new identity that you want to start focusing on, which is the person who is not in their own way anymore. Because that's the whole point of doing this, is to get out of your own way. So that can be super helpful because you're visualizing that person who's doing the things. And sometimes you have to tell yourself, like, I don't have to actually do these things. I'm just thinking about doing the thing. And it can be very, very helpful in terms of getting out of your own way. Now, the one thing I know a lot of people try is just to like force themselves to do it, force themselves through it, like the only way out is through or whatever. And unless you overcome that being piece of it, habits don't necessarily reset your mindset. So a lot of it's a mindset thing. Affirmations can be helpful for this stuff, in terms of telling yourself what kind of person that you are. One of the things I want you to be aware of, though, with all of these methods is you have to be consistent with them. It's not like a one and done thing. It is something where there might be triggers and then you might backslide and then it's like, okay, I'm still in my own way. So it's not like, oh, this is like instantaneous and then I'll never be in my own way again. And even if you've gotten out of your own way with one area of your life, you might be in your own way like in another area. Because I see this all the time, like in people who I know are super successful and super amazing. And it's so irritating because I can see it on them where they're in their own way and I know they can't see it. And I'm like, should I tell them how they're in their own way? Or will they just be like really annoyed with me for saying, I see how you're in your own way. You're doing this thing. And I know you wanted this one thing, but you're doing something that's like contradictory. And I just want to scream. But again, you know, they have to be open to that idea that maybe they actually do want to get out of their own way, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're like fine being in their own way. They're like fine with it. They don't want to do anything about it. So hopefully with these few tips, you'll be able to start making some progress to getting out of your own way. And obviously it's perfectly okay to ask for help with this, because I would say it's one of the harder things to overcome.